Hey, Jake and Holden. I just watched or listened to the 28 Days Later episode of the podcast and really enjoyed it. Um, Huge Alex Garland fan, and you can tell because I have this Sunshine poster in my garage that I've had for a long time. Um, you guys mentioned the statue that's in the military house, and you guys are like big researchers, and I'm a big fan of the show. And I actually went to art school and did a research paper on that particular statue, so I thought I'd just share some info. Um, this is a thing I did probably 20 years ago, so I'm curious, like, um, how the details uh, fit to actual history. But um, so yeah, the Laocoon statue, it depicts this character from the Trojan War. It was a Trojan priest that was trying to warn them that the Trojan horse was a trick. And then Neptune sent these giant serpents to kill him and his sons. So the statue was made by these three Rhodian artists from Rhodes: Hagisandros, Polydorus, and Athenodorus. And I think it was around 200 BC. I don't remember the exact date of it, but I think it's around 200 BC that it was originally sculpted. And Rhodes is um, an island off of Greece, and it was kind of this sort of art community, and it's sort of famous because it had the Colossus of Rhodes, which is one of the ancient wonders of the world, that was standing above the port. And the Colossus of Rhodes is the inspiration for Statue of Liberty. Here in America, it's the inspiration for Talos from Jason and the Argonauts, just a giant bronze statue. Um, so the Rhodian school, it had this particular type of technique where when they sculpted stuff, they would sculpt very deep into things like, eyes and mouth and stuff. So it would have a greater contrast when the sun and the way that the shadow sort of hit it. That's why when you see it, it looks like it has a really exaggerated expression. And that was just sort of like a School of Rhodes method of sculpture. So there's a lot of interesting things about this particular statue, which is kind of why I made this video, and I hope you guys A, even see it, and B, find it entertaining. But up to a point, the statue was lost. We didn't know what happened to it, and we had just a quote from Pliny the Elder that said, and I'm paraphrasing a bit, but it said, "This statue, the Laocoon statue, should be held in the highest regard of any piece of painting or sculpture ever. Like it's the pinnacle. It's way up there." And that's all we had until we knew this piece of art existed. We didn't know what it looked like. And then in Michelangelo's time, they discovered it and they started to unearth it. Michelangelo found out. He went there. He was there when it was unearthed. And there's pieces missing. There's like kind of like the upper hand of the dad, the main character in the sculpture. And so when you Google the statue, you'll see like two different sort of images. There's one where he's holding the snake like this, and there's another one where he's kind of holding it like this. And Michelangelo actually sculpted the arm. It's like from here up. He sculpted that to add on to, because he was trying to like restore the sculpture. But then later on, they sort of, by they I mean like artistic scholars or whatever, sort of decided that, like Egyptian sculpture and Egyptian embossing and that sort of thing, like they follow strict mathematical rules. And when you look at the Laocoon sculpture, it's kind of like a triangle. Like it's got a big base and then kind of goes like this. And they figured that was probably the composition that it was adhering to. And Michelangelo's arm kind of breaks through that triangular shape. So they figured it was probably more like this. So that's kind of just an interesting detail. It was considered, the finest piece of art until they found it. And Pliny the Elder was one that died at Pompeii. So he died at Pompeii. Um, what else about this statue? It was discovered in this cave called Sperlonga, which I would encourage you to Google Sperlonga, Sperlonga, because there's a few other statues they discovered which are not nearly as popular, but are equally as interesting, I think. One of them is the cast of characters trying to blind the Cyclops while he sleeps. That's pretty cool. And another one is Scylla, who's Scylla in Charybdon is kind of where the term between a rock and a hard place comes from. So you have Scylla, who's this mythological character, this woman with like wolves coming out of her midsection. Anyway, it's just like a sculpture of her, and that's cool as well. And yeah, so I just did this research paper 20 years ago, and I've been sitting on this information and had no reason to share it for any reason whatsoever. But I enjoyed the podcast. I love you guys and thought I'd return the favor. Cheers.